Thank you for listening to Depictions Media Radio. Welcome back, everyone. Every now and again, you meet somebody that has found their path, their purpose, their faith, and they're just absolutely living it to the point that it shows forth in everything they do. That holds true for our next guest, Sarah Evangeline, and this is what she has to say for herself. She says this: I help guide people to a deeper healing and spiritual journey so they can reconnect with their true self. She goes on, I was someone who suffered from a quarter-life crisis, feeling lonely, overwhelmed, and stuck. Healing my inner child and connecting with the truest part of me saved my life. I believe that many people are wanting to connect to their soul but don't know how. I created a soul talk method to a step-by-step guide so that someone can have a chance to heal and live out their best possible life. So, with all that, why don't we welcome Sarah to the show and hear what this soul talk method is about and how she found it herself. Welcome back, everybody. I'm here today with Sarah Evangeline, and Sarah does a lot of different types of healing, and one of those is especially spiritual, right? And why don't we get Sarah to tell us how she got started doing this and why she does what she does.
Sure. Thanks, Michael. So, I mean, it all started a while ago because I think so often we don't realize what's happening, but our soul knows, our spirit knows, and but just being guided in a different direction. And I was brought up in, Christian home, Christian school, followed certain rules, right? And I eventually went into school to become a pastor. And, I had my master's in counseling and coaching at the time, was really feeling really low in my life, just going through what I call the dark night of the soul, where it's just hard to be living. You're meeting your shadow, you're meeting a part of yourself that's really, really, really hard to accept. And I thought that going in to become a pastor would kind of help save me. Like, I didn't really know what to do. I had my degree, I had my master's, I had written a book, and it just felt like, oh my goodness, I'm only 24. Like, is this all life is? What am I supposed to do next? Because I had checked marked so many boxes that everyone told me I had to do to be successful. And I honestly was just feeling empty, feeling very lost, and scared of the unknown. So at that time in my life, I was really living for other people, didn't know how to trust my own inner voice, didn't know how to trust my intuition or really look within. I was looking for other people's opinions of me. So long story short, I went into this school to become a pastor. And I started, actually, this will be cool, Michael. I started doing, I had to do a co-op or like an intern in BC. And right now I'm blanking on the city I was in, but it was in a little It was in between two valleys in BC, absolutely stunning. And I was there for 2 or 3 weeks and just did a lot of work outside of the church walls. And I think there I just saw a lot of different culture. I mean, I had traveled so much, but sometimes it just takes something to push you over the edge. And I remember flying back to school going, I don't think that this is where I want to be. I don't think that this is me. I feel like I'm being pushed into a mold that's against my true nature, but I don't know who I am. So, this tug of war was happening in between myself. But I got to a point where I was like, I cannot stay here anymore. I'm terrified of what life looks like with what I don't know. Like if I stay here and become a pastor, I know what my life's going to look like for the next 50 years. But there was something urging in me to like get up from my seat. And I'll share this part of the story because it's actually really profound. I was sitting there in a class, in one of the classes, and feeling like I shouldn't be there. I don't want to be there. And I was visualizing this bird in my head, flying free. And I wanted to be this bird. And then this girl that was sitting next to me, much older than me, I loved her because she would just talk without a filter, and it's needed sometimes. So she leans over to me and she's like, I think I need to tell you something. And I said, what? And she said, I think you need to know that you have wings you haven't flown yet. So all of this started happening, and I believe that was so divine. So finally I start crying and I'm like, okay, I have to tell someone safe that I cannot stay here. So that day, shortly after I went up to someone, she happened to be a life coach as well. And I just sat down and I was like bawling with her and just said, I do have no idea who I am. I have no idea what I should be doing with my life, but I know I cannot stay here. And I was expecting judgment. I was expecting criticism. I was expecting to say, no, you have to stay here, because that's how I had lived in my internal dialogue. I was criticizing myself, judging myself, right? So what she did in that moment is what I teach now. She gave my inner child permission to be seen in one moment, in one sentence that like broke the whole doors open. And she just sat there and she looked at me with such compassion. And she said, Sarah, what do you want your life to look like? And she just let me speak. And I started crying even more because it was like, wait a minute, I can ask myself that. I can ask what? So that's what started it all, was that. And the place I was studying at was absolutely so supportive in my journey. They let me stay, finish up the semester. I was taking this spiritual discipline course, and I started to have a spiritual awakening in the condo I was living in while I was still at this pastor's school. And so everything, like, I believe we're all right on time. And like the same place that I was feeling stuck is the same place that set me free. So I did a lot of internal work on myself. Instead of giving to others, it was time for myself to actually heal. And it's been 5 years now, 5 or 6 years, and I'm just so grateful and honored to be doing what I'm doing. I'm finally putting, that practice of what I was taught into play, but it is such an amazing journey, and have developed programs and been coaching people and just continuing my own spiritual journey. It's absolutely wonderful.
So I'm going to make a comment that at first it was like, God spoke to you, literally. I mean, the wings, the whole thing. It's like you have wings, you just need to fly with them. It's like he sat there, and it's like that was just so profound. I mean, I got shivers up and down my spine when you said about the flying and all. I was like, wow.
Mm-hmm.
So okay, so you got unstuck, and you found what that tug was, and in that moment, you learn to listen to God, our Creator, Spirit, whoever you because not all listeners want to hear God, but
Yes, exactly.
I believe in God, okay? And I was ordained, right?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, along with everything else is like it's like I took a Judeo-Christian studies the whole bit. I wrote this profound paper on who Jesus Christ was as a person. And you know what I discovered? He was the
Mm.
rebel. He was that protester that
Yep.
we see today, right? Is like um but but the but that's kind of not the point. The point is that we open up and we listen to what that calling is, right?
Mhm. Exactly.
And hearing you tell how you just opened up and started listening is like, wow, that is such a profound story. So, with all that being said, is that what you try to do for others? You try to help them open up
Mhm.
and find
Absolutely.
that voice for themselves.
Yes, I think it's truly transforming and life-changing. Um, I mean, there's so much we can learn from the life of Jesus. And I would say sitting in one of those classes, we would learn about the life of Jesus, and then we would learn what we have to do in the church. And I would see these contradictions. And that's what helped kind of wake me up of like, wait, you're telling me that Jesus did this, totally for it, but then you want me to do this. And I was like, I just can't do this. This is going against who I want to be, what I want to represent, my values. And so the thing is, one area that, and I mean, I don't want to put a generalization because we can all have a different experience, and there's so much
Yeah.
beauty still in the Christian realm. Um, it's just, we teach I guess I'll talk about my personal journey. I would teach kids and teenagers to ask Jesus into their heart. And
Right.
then I was chasing after God as if he was like way over there, and I have to do all these things to perform for him in order to receive his love. Now, this also ties into childhood trauma and so many other things that I teach, because we sometimes will see life through the lens of our trauma when we haven't healed that yet. And so I was chasing after love, and I learned that um, we ask Jesus into our heart. So why are we chasing after something outside of us? It's within. So that inner voice that I was hearing was God, and it was also me. Like we I think sometimes forget that yes, there's beauty around us. Yes, God is outside of us, and creation is outside of us, but there's so much wisdom that he's given you, that he's given me. And to be able to tap into that, that's how we tap into, our creativity, our self-belief, so many things that I believe that we came here to be. And so many people that I talk to, they're feeling that lostness, that stuckness, that hustle of busyness of chasing, and just to say, and overwhelmed, right? And just like something's missing. Like I kept saying to myself, is this all that life is? Because there can't be. There has to be more to life. And there is so much more to life. And I call my program the Soul Talk method, because that soul talk is what's so key. And when we can learn and uncover the trauma, uncover the the things that have been programmed that we should be, that the world tells us that we should be, or that man has almost manipulated to tell us how we should be living or thinking, when we can
Mhm.
come to ourselves. um I mean, I was talking a little bit before about the dark night of the soul. It can be really hard and miserable and so painful, but that's where you meet God. You meet yourself there. You meet like, and everyone's going to have their different experience. I don't want to put certain expectations on it, but it's this beautiful intertwined of so many things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, in a lot of respects, right? When we're helping people find faith and God and all that kind of stuff, right? Or or that, or if you want to eliminate all the God stuff, just find what your sole purpose is. And
Yeah.
I really want to stress the soul part of our purpose, because um we can achieve, you agree with this, you can achieve that sole purpose and still work a 9 to 5 job and be an employee. It doesn't mean that you have to break away from that. It just means that you got to find what that tug is, because it's
Exactly.
tugging at you. And sometimes that corporate stuff that we see all over the place is just numbing us to what that purpose should be. And
Mhm.
it sounds like you help people find, you're that guide that helps people find, okay, where is it that my life is supposed to be? What is going to fulfill me? It's like, because like you said, it's different for every person, and sometimes we just need a guide to get us there, right?
Exactly. Exactly. I definitely did. I definitely did. And but I want to, bring people home to themselves, where I even will say to my clients, discern what I'm saying to you. Like, take it back, even what I'm saying, and discern it and go, okay, like, is this actually my truth? This is actually what I believe in. And we redefine a lot of things. We even redefine what love means, because sometimes what was taught to us that was love is not the love that we deserve or the love that we want to live out. So there's so many things to it, but I love that you said that, because it is our sole purpose, 100%.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I guess we're going to witness for each other. It's amazing when you get there, and life just becomes like this beautiful thing.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And I think so often people will say, and I believed it too, and there is an element to this where, okay, I'm feeling really stuck and I'm feeling lost. I have to leave everything behind, move way across the world, quit the 9 to 5. And sometimes that is the case, but
Mhm.
sometimes it's just like you can find yourself. Actually, I don't like that term. You can uncover who you are right where you're at. You don't have to escape everything, right? Like, actually, we're taught to escape or to hide or to numb. So we don't have to escape. Like I was saying, we don't have to chase after that thing outside of us.
Hmm.
We get to, you know, like I was saying, the same place that I felt stuck was the same place that I learned to be free. So I'll tell the people sometimes, you have to leave that career. Sometimes you have to move on from something 100%. And sometimes it's just, okay, showing up differently, because once we change our inner world, the outer world will change.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree with that, for because I totally changed career the whole bit, and I moved from one country to another country, uh, different coast, the whole bit, right? They totally flipped my whole entire life upside down, and found um that purpose that way. But it doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be that radical of a change. Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
each person is different, isn't it?
Yeah. And that's the beauty of this, is that everyone gets to see something different. The way you experience the world is different than I experience the world. But so often we get told there's one way to life. We're taught what to think, not how to think. And so part of this too is like
Hmm.
really looking at our belief system, really looking at our values, and do our values match our soul? My values have done like a 180 and then like, come back around, and it looks very different than it did before. So, and it's knowing that as you evolve, as you heal, as you change, those are allowed to change, right? Um, my soul is telling me something now that it was not ready for 2 years ago, right? And
Right.
so it's just a really beautiful and very messy, it can be very messy journey, because there's a lot of sometimes emotional pain that we need to walk through, because we're actually turning inward and not avoiding. So yeah, it's been beautiful. beautiful journey.
Let's focus on the mess for a second, because we're always taught that everything has to be how the what is it the saying? Everything has its place in it's something along with places, and it's like these old sayings, they elude me sometimes, because it's like they didn't hold a lot of meaning for me to begin with. Um, but it was something along the lines, everything had its place and everything should be in its place, or whatever, like something like that, right? It's like, so we're taught as children that mess is bad.
Hmm.
Is like, is that necessarily true, or should we or do we have to face the mess in order to put ourselves together?
Yeah, I mean, that really ties into relearning and redefining things because, yeah, if we're told mess is bad, if we were brought up in a home or a situation where we maybe have perfectionism, like everything has to be perfect in order to be loved or feel good enough, um, messy is not bad. Messy can be good. And I think we love to label things and put things in categories so our mind is at ease. But I do a lot of inner child work, and I really believe that the inner child, we all have an inner child within us, and our inner child is very linked and connected to our spiritual self, our soul self. So part of the work I do, and part of the work that really, I would say, saved my life is meeting my inner child again. Um, Relearning things like if you were told that being messy was bad, you get to reclaim that. You get to meet that part of you that was there, um, just not feeling loved, not feeling good enough because we hold those emotions still in our body. They're maybe dictating our self-worth, our self-identity, how we make decisions as adults. It's still there because our inner child, we have many versions of inner childs within us actually. And we can still be carrying that with us. And so, um, you know, and the same lady that I told you where she said, you still have wings, you haven't flown yet. I remember the very last thing she said to me, she's like, don't expect everything to be easy once you get out there. And, she said it with so much love, but it was what she was getting at. And what I've learned is like, yeah, just because I've said yes to myself and said yes to discovering who I am, it has not always been easy. There have been amazing, amazing moments, and I have zero regrets. And it's just life continues to look very different than what I was expecting or what I was planning. And there's been both heartache and like amazing just sitting back going, oh my goodness, right? So we have to embrace both of those. I think we sometimes think, okay, like I'll be on the mountaintop forever and I have to stay there. And in this journey, there are the valleys, there are the hard times. And the thing is, though, is that right? We don't have to run away from that. That's all part of us. I believe we came here to experience all of the emotions. And from my childhood, I really believed that anger was bad. You can't be angry. And so I was actually a very angry. I was carrying a lot of anger in me that I felt like I could not express because like it's bad. Like, so keep it away. And there's a beautiful sacred way to release our anger and let it out. So I love that you brought that up because we get to redefine that. Messy does not have to be bad. Hard emotions don't have to be bad, it's all needed.
Yeah. Um, I for myself, I've tried to eliminate the good and bad and turn it into more of the learning.
Yes.
Okay, so I had to learn that lesson. Well, that was an easy lesson to learn. It's like, wow, okay. Oh, that was a really hard lesson to learn. And it's like, or should I say, um, hard is a bad. Hard isn't necessarily like the best of words to describe it. Some of them are arduous or lengthy.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's better because you can actually see that there's a path there. You know,
Yep.
like hard means it's like it's impassable, and and that isn't the point. It is passable. It's just that we have to find our way through,
Yeah.
around, over, however it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
That path. So how do you start to guide people to to that purpose through their inner child and to who they're supposed to be as a person?
Oh, yeah. When someone talks to me, usually they are already feeling the nudge. They're already feeling or asking themselves questions. And very often when I ask them questions, they'll say, I don't know. I don't know. And I know they know. It's just they're at that very beginning where they're asking the questions or they're feeling like something's missing. Um, and so, I want them to want to heal. First of all, if being open to it is really key. We can't force anyone to heal. So I usually will have an initial call with someone and just ask them where they're at, um, hear their story, and then, tell them about what I do. And so I teach a program and there's 8 steps and it's step by step. So the first one is about self-awareness and waking up our inner child. There are so many people that will say, I have a free meditation that I give, and people will say, oh my goodness, I had no idea I could like embrace my inner child. I didn't know that my inner child was still with me. And already they'll start to like heal a little bit from just being open and allowing our inner child to speak to us. And some people will release emotions for the first time, or just, again, that openness. The openness is really key because again, healing looks different for everyone. It's 8 weeks, but it can take longer. People usually start to see transformation in a few weeks, but it's a lifetime access program because we are all on this journey, and there's no endpoint. there's going to be changes 100%, but the first step is really just opening ourselves up to hearing our inner child, communicating with our inner child. And we can sometimes have many inner voices going off, right? And we have to decipher which one is actually ours. Because, for example, if someone's had a very critical parent or a very critical caregiver that they looked up to, it could honestly be a teacher that they had only for 1 year, but that said something incredibly hurtful that has just stuck with them. And it's ruminated for like generations of like, I'm going to be a failure, or I'm not going to measure up because of XYZ. And they could still be holding that as their internal dialogue for so many things that are, yes, in the future or in the present, but they're carrying it from like 20, 30, 40 years ago. And so it's realizing that not all the inner voices that are going off in our head are actually ours. And so I really do a body up approach, and not everyone agrees with that, but it is where we get into our body first, as opposed to just doing mindset. I believe in mindset, but without the body work, it's not like it's useless, but the body's still going to hold that tension. The body's still going to hold the trauma. And so with the body is where the emotions are stored, and our inner child is in our heart space. And so we need the mind. The mind is very powerful. The mind is so powerful. What our mind believes, our body is going to then live out. So,
Yeah.
So like I do a lot of embodiment practices, mirror work, shadow work, meditations, where we allow the body to speak to us. And sometimes this is completely new to some people. So I guide them through that in step by step. Yeah.
Wow. Wow, that sounds like an amazing program. You said about 8 weeks?
Well, I say that because, it has 8 module trainings, and it's like a self-paced study. So if you want to take a whole month to do one module, you get access to it. And then I have monthly connecting coaching calls. So, last night actually was just a coaching call, and I had someone on there from a year ago that joined, and I had someone on there from like last week who joined. So it's really beautiful, and they all empower each other. And I get off the calls and I just have to sit back and go, oh my goodness, like this is here today because I sat up from my seat, stepped into the unknown, and it's a complete honor. Like sometimes I'll have tears in my eyes because it's like, it is such an honor, and I take it very seriously. Just, it's an honor to be able to guide people home to themselves. It's amazing.
So one of the important takeaways from this particular conversation, so that people understand, is not the steps are more important than the time. So if it takes you longer than the average, or try to say, if it takes you longer than your neighbor to be able to do it, that's okay, because it's your journey, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So
yeah. And being patient with ourselves. Like I always will say, slow is fast when we're healing. Slow is fast.
yeah. When we're talking about things to do with soul, spirit, and in our hearts, I get that slow is fast. There's a lot of what the mind would say is contradictory. It makes perfect sense, so
yeah.
What are some of the outcomes that people start to see when they get, as they're going through this process with you, as you walk them through it?
Yeah, that's a great question. Recently, someone shared with me that they can understand where their triggers come from. They're not letting their triggers control them. Setting boundaries with family, stepping out into their creativity. There's some people in the program that, wanted to be a photographer, or wanted to start their own business. They're stepping out and doing that. We do a lot of work when it comes to fears as well. And so, one of the ladies, she shared with me that, one of her fears, she's facing it, and she's, her anxiety is not as heightened. And so again, your results are going to be your own, but your life will not look the same when you enter that program. And sometimes we see aspects of ourselves that we have to accept and change. Like one lady, she shared with me that she realized that that she's been controlling, and she doesn't want to be controlling. And even that aspect is huge. So you're meeting your inner child. You get to free your inner child and heal your inner child. And what it changes is the direction of your life, meaning the decisions you make, how you believe in yourself, right? We're not belittling ourselves. We're believing in ourselves. So it really changes the way you show up to your partner, the way you show up to work, the way you show up to yourself when you wake up. I hope that answers your question.
It does. It's like I remember a point in my own life, and it took a lot of work to get out of this. And then I just all of a sudden I realized that I was actually looking at myself in the mirror again, because I didn't like who I saw when I looked in the mirror.
Yeah.
Physically, I don't know if my exterior changed all that much, age, whatever, but there was that point because my soul just didn't like who I was. It said, and then slowly as I did work and everything, it's like you find these little things that you're like, oh, I can taste that.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And I mean, I do mirror work, and I love that you brought that up, because this work is definitely for men. It's not just for women. I think that sometimes people assume that, oh, this is very feminine or just for women. And the thing is, it's for men too. And so, oh shoot, what was I gonna say? I think it might be gone from me. There's something that you were saying. It was a really good point. That's okay. It'll come back.
Yeah, we'll find it again.
Yeah.
What, that's the fun part about life is like, oh, I forgot what that was, but then you find it again.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I think one of my big takeaways from doing this work is that I have so much fun with myself. I laugh with myself. I will make a mistake that only I see, and instead of like judging myself or ruminating like for days, like why did I do that? Like that was so silly because I used to do that. Like I will literally just be in the moment with myself and laugh. And like I think that really hit me once. It was about like 2 years ago. I remember like just being in my room and it was a small thing. Like I put laundry away wrong. Like I say quote unquote wrong because there's not really a wrong way to do it. But I just remember like going, oh, Sarah. And then like I just stood there laughing my head off with myself. And I'm like, okay, this is like sometimes what we can be doing is doing the work, doing the inner work. And we're staying consistent. We're going through it all. And then we just have these moments where we go, oh my goodness, look how far I've come. And that's what's really pivotal too, is that we stay consistent. And then we will have these moments where we will just sit back and go, oh my goodness, like I have prayed or dreamt about being where I am right now, or just feeling the way I'm feeling, like inner peace, not criticizing myself, right? So it's huge.
Yeah. There's the whole theory around self-talk,
Mhm.
we say to ourselves inside our own head. And how do you help people deal with that sort of thing?
There's honestly not one way to do it. There's a few techniques, and it even goes back to the mirror work of meeting themselves. And when I say mirror work, I designed a meditation where we look at ourselves in the mirror and we're learning to accept how we are right here, right now. And so that aspect can help. I have a whole module on how to change our thought pattern, how to slow down so we're actually paying attention. It's self-awareness and raising our consciousness is so huge, because when we do that, we have to actually bring into the awareness what we're thinking. So many of us just are on autopilot and we are just doing the same thing day in and day out, and we don't realize that it can actually, maybe it's a bad habit, or just, sorry, I don't mean to label anything bad, but or it's like it's damaging us and we just don't realize because we've been doing it for so long, and we don't realize that, wait a minute, we're actually belittling ourselves. So unfortunately, like I can't say there's just one thing, but I will say it's the body up approach. I really believe in it, where yes, positive affirmations are amazing. Yes, mantras are amazing if you're into that. It's just, to me, without the body work of like understanding our emotional expression, learning how to connect with ourselves, that it's like a band-aid approach to what's going on deeper than the surface. Also why I call it soul talk, because we're getting deeper than the surface. And we are meeting many versions of ourselves. And I always say we peel it back layer at a time. What might work for someone right here, right today, it might have to shift a little bit in 6 months from now because they pulled back another layer. Oh my goodness, there's a whole different emotion or a different fear I had no idea was ruminating in my body. So we peel it back one layer at a time, and I guess it comes down to guiding someone home to themselves, but it's hard for me to put it like in just a tangible tip. But for someone who's listening, what I could say is, if there's a question, like pay attention to your thoughts. You can even just set an alarm on your phone, random, and just go, okay, what was that one thought I was just thinking? Was it criticizing? Was it judging someone else? Was it worrying about something 6 months from now? Like, what was that thought I was just thinking? And pull that in and bring your awareness to it. You know, you can ask yourself, is that actually me? Do I actually believe that? Do I want to live in that? And start just opening yourself up to being open to hearing yourself, right? It's that openness first, and the rest will honestly follow.
That in and of itself is like when you open yourself, the rest of you just follows. That's profound in of itself.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So results and things like that. What I always ask people these type of questions because it's kind of general and all inspiring sort of thing. And it's time for your question on this one. If your system could create the quote unquote perfect world, what would it look like to you?
Ooh, this is a cool question. Um, my perfect world would be that everyone would continue to tap into their wonder, curiosity, imagination as they get older. That we would focus more on the beauty in the world, that there would be a way of, you know, everyone having a home. I think it's really hard to accept the fact that there's some people, you know, some people who are, they don't have a home, or some people who are really struggling when we live on an amazing planet that we have everything we need. We have everything we need. If we could plant and learn how to grow our own food, if we could just we are so abundant on this planet and in this world that I think it would be teaching ourselves some of what I think what we're taught backwards, like, you know, not depending on so many things and knowing that we're abundant, knowing that we can, what we're capable. I don't know if that fully makes sense, but I think it's about embracing the beauty, knowing that we are empowered, abundant beings, that we have everything we need, and living like it, right? Not living like that we're in scarcity, or that we're fearing our future, we're counting down days to retirement. I don't think we were meant to live that way. I think we were meant to learn how to be. And for 2 years, I worked in a school system where I would see the anxiety in the kids younger and younger. And I studied child psychology where, you know, it's just, I don't think we have to live this anxious. I don't think so. That's not our, and I mean, there's nothing wrong with, I don't want to make anyone feel like there's anything wrong with them. It's just, I would just be looking at these kids that were 3 or 4, and I'm like, oh, if we were to teach them meditation and grounding tools and emotional techniques now while they're young, as opposed to relearning it when we're adults, right? And so it's a mixture of things, but for people to know who they are, us to be so unique yet so connected, and to be living to our full potential.
It's that's beautiful. Anyway, best ways to get a hold of you and work with you.
Sure. So the best way is probably my Instagram account. It is soultalk_awakening. Or my website is just sarah-evangeline.org. So that's super easy. It shows, you know, what the Soul Talk method is, how to get in touch with me, all the things that way.
Cool. awesome. It's been a lot of fun. I've learned quite a bit, even in this few minutes that we've been together. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Michael. It's so, I really believe in the gift of storytelling and telling our stories and having a platform for people to express their story. So thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you. Well, it's part of our motto, everyone has a story, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So, yeah. And thank you for coming on and telling your story. You've had some amazing things happen, and I believe you have way more more amazing things to happen for you. So.
And that's the truth. There's so much more to learn. We are constantly going to learn and unfold. And I say it's a great unfolding. Our lives are a great unfolding.
It's a good word. I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you everybody for listening today, and please find that subscribe button, and whether you're on Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, Spotify, or maybe you're watching the video on Rumble, find that subscribe button and keep getting more and more of our content sit into your home so that you can grow and find that sole purpose you're supposed to have. Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you, Michael. This was so much fun.
So I wish upon that shooting star, and then I
This show has been produced by Depictions Media. Please contact us at depictions.media for more information.